Austin!
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. We've got an announcement to make right at the top of the show here. Today, we're going to talk about the potential for gambling and 40K and whether or not these gambling companies are going to come and get it and snoop around and get involved in 40K tournaments and things of that nature. Now, here's the deal. There will be a lot of people that get in the comments, they get very mad that this is like a wholly speculative sort of conversation and discussion. And we know that. There are only so many podcasts that I feel like a human being can stand to listen to where they talk about, well, the toughness 6 models are better than the toughness 4 models at the points cost, blah, blah, blah. We don't really do that here. So, we've got a case to make. We've got some information. And with everything that's going on in American sports right now, I think this is a neat discussion to have. Because the gambling money is coming for everything. They want to spend and they want to make, and I don't see why 40K tournaments specifically would not be, fertile ground for them to till. And we're going to talk about that. So, before you guys get all mad, yes, we know this is totally speculative. However, if we look up in 2 years and there's a DraftKings sponsored tournament, we'll have got there first. So, I know it's going to be interesting in the comments. You and I have got some opinions about this sports gambling, and really it's gambling on your phone that I think is going to be, you and I are somewhat aligned in that, spoiler alert, I think it's all bad. No good can come of it, but I've got more points on that to make when we get into it. But I just wanted to get that off at the top because I imagine that the title is going to get a lot of people clicking, and there will be a lot of people saying, there's absolutely no evidence, da-da-da. We know that. We understand. It's just a discussion like you might have at the game store. That's what we try to do here at 40K Fanatics. I'm Shane, that's Austin, and we're going to get into it. First thing we're going to do is open up the Vox channel where we read your comments, and I hope that next week we have a lot of comments, because honestly, this week, I found one.
It's been kind of dry lately.
It's been a little dry. You guys need to get out there and comment.
Now, I saw in our Blood Bowl, it said there's 6 comments on our studio page, the little page we use for checking our analysis of everything, and it says there's 6 comments, but I don't even see 6 comments there. I don't know what's going on with that.
I think a couple of them were me.
I know there was one reply from you, but I only counted 3 comments, so there's some kind of ghost comment thing going on.
Well, maybe it was a bot trying to sell cryptocurrency, and YouTube.
Very likely.
And YouTube, yeah, really likely. And YouTube was like, no, we don't need that. Yeah, I don't know. But we do have this one. This one comes from Spotify. It comes from frequent contributor Dave and Company on our last podcast of our reactions to the World Championship 40K reveals. He says, yikes, the technical difficulties were beyond embarrassing. I was watching with my friend Joe, shout out Joe, and we couldn't fathom how a billion-dollar company messes up so badly. To that I say, they're a billion-dollar games and miniatures company. If they were a billion-dollar
company,
if they were a media company or an entertainment sort of company, I think it probably would have gone off without a hitch. It's funny too how places, organizations, and things don't always know what they don't know, because you can hire professionals to make sure that stuff goes off without a hitch, and they probably should have. But then he continues, as for models, as a Nurgle fan, I loved the Maggotkin stuff. I also thought Cathay looked good. Hell, the Horus Heresy and Imperialis showed solid stuff. The 40K models were mid at best, with the exception of Titus himself, who looked badass. The 500 Worlds campaign sounds good, but the 40K models shown were lackluster. There definitely weren't a lot of them. They really, really are proud of their new Warhammer Quest box. And I guess that's fine. They do love to sell a box. Go ahead.
That was what the whole reveal was mainly about, was the Warhammer Quest.
Well, yeah, it was. Which is a bit funny because it was the 40K World Championships. You'd think that those things might have some synergy, but they don't always. Only the Only the God King of Man knows the comings and goings of GW's release cycle. But I am
Yeah.
excited for 500 Worlds. I think that's going to be really fun. But that's pretty much the Vox channel. Get in the comments. You can leave them on Spotify. You can leave them on YouTube. You can also join YouTube memberships now, where you will get the podcast. If you're a YouTube listener, you're going to get the podcast at the same time that the Spotify listeners get it, which is on Friday instead of Monday. Also, we've got bonus content, bonus episodes that we're bringing to you. We've got a two-part discussion on the nature of Superman in various media that is out now for our YouTube members. And we plan on doing, I don't know if we'll have time today, but we've got an RPG Tavern that's going to come out in that way too. So the memberships is where you can support us with a little bit of money as we try to get this thing rolling so that Austin doesn't have to work his silly day job. And we're putting our sort of ancillary content over there. Over here, you get your miniature war games and 40K content for free, like always, but with the opportunity to get a bit early. Now, if you listen over on Spotify, don't even worry about it. Everything except those oddball exclusive episodes are over there. You get it on Friday. So when you're jogging around, shout out to Dave and Company, who said he listens to us while jogging. You know, who
Yeah,
said
I like that.
who says we're all just bearded dudes in the basement, all fluffy? It's not true.
Yeah.
Some of us are jogging around.
Some of us see daylight.
That's right. Let's open up the Bits box. Next part of the show. Open it up. The Bits box is the part of the show where we talk about what we've done in the miniature gaming hobby this week. And I've not done much. I've been very busy. I am with another buddy trying to put together an 80s band. So an 80s cover band with quite a high production value. And that has been taking up a lot of my time lately. And so, musically, it's a little bit of a heavier lift than usual, and it's got more than just me and him in it. So there's always some dragging folks along behind us a little bit, which my friend is just about to have his PhD in guitar. So you can imagine you don't have to tell him much, you see. But the rest of us, we're just always trying to get on his level to not embarrass ourselves. And so that's been taking up a lot of my hobby time. However, I did get to do a little bit of painting. You can see the stuff over on our Discord. How do they join the Discord, Austin?
Below in our description, there is a link to the Discord. Sometimes it is posted in the comment section, but just click that link and you can join.
What's it cost?
It costs nothing.
Oh, it's a free Discord.
Free Discord, no membership required, no monthly payments. It is totally free.
Well, you got no excuse. And if you go to the Discord, there's a Bitsbox section where you can see what we've been doing, where we post our models and where others post theirs for your comment and your consideration and your viewing pleasure, such as the werewolf that I've posted over there. It's a Marvel Crisis Protocol model coming from that box that has 4 things, and he's been he's turning out, right? He's turning out. It's not the greatest thing I've ever painted, but what I was trying to do is get the look of fur because it's a really good model. It's a good sculpt in that it's got some sculpted fur, but not a ton. So it kind of has it has the sculpted fur in the places where if you were just going to slap chop it, you'd want it. But if you want to go the extra mile, it's got smooth volumes for you to sort of build up fur texture with your brush, and that is what I've been trying to do. It's my first kind of foray into attempting something like that, and I think it's probably turned out like a 7 out of 10 on my personal rating. I would have liked it to have got up to my own 8, but I don't know if I can. A funny part about it is I've got him wearing these green shorts with yellow trim because for whatever reason, everybody knows. Everyone knows that when you make a superhero or monstrous transformation that changes your anatomy in some way, right? Typically making you taller, wider, bigger, that your shorts always hold up. The
It's the Hulk
Hulks.
effect.
Yeah, it's the Hulk effect. The shorts always somehow just manage to hang together. Now, my personal underoos don't seem to make it more than a 6 month period of normal use, and I'm just the same size, just sitting around, moving around. However, somehow, if I were suddenly a superhero, they would be impervious to damage. And so this werewolf is in green shorts, kind of athletic shorts, and it's funny when you look at the picture how much better I am at painting, highlighting, etc. Some sort of smooth green, smooth colored surface than I
Mhm.
am this fur,
Yeah.
which I think loses me another half a point on the rest of my paint job, possibly. But he looks pretty good. He looks pretty good. And so that's what I've been painting. You know what I was telling the wife just yesterday. What I would really like to have here pretty soon is I need 5 more Chaos Terminators, and I need to kit them all out with Power Fists so that I can have the sort of an amount of those that I'm supposed to have. Right? Air
Mhm.
quotes on supposed to have. You pay for them either way. But I just want to do that as a project because I'm going to know all the answers. And there's something to sometimes painting something that doesn't have any surprises, doesn't ask very many questions of you, and is going to turn out good. I've got a half dozen different ways that I can paint black armor, you see. And I think that would
Mhm.
be really fun because my last 2 projects have been a little bit wandering the forest,
Yeah.
which I've not found terribly um, rewarding. Well, and it's not that it's not rewarding; it's that it's not relaxing in the way that I
Mhm.
would like it to be. It's a little bit. It feels like I'm fighting it, like I'm wrestling something, and that's not really what I always want from my hobby experience. Get in the comments. Let
No,
me
so
know if
that,
that sort of thing happens to you. But Austin, what have you done in the hobby?
well, sorry, I thought you were going to finish that sentence differently. Well, I've been working on those dwarves, but also lately I've been trying to get my eBay stuff going, trying to sell some stuff on eBay,
Yeah, you've
and
got
that's been a
odds and
whole
ends
mess.
laying around, don't you?
Yeah, I got odds and ends laying around trying to get those sold. Made a sale just now. Actually, sold a Funko Pop collectible. Apparently, people are still wanting those, even though the business is currently collapsing. So that's fun. I've got to get that packaged, and the packaging, trying to buy the bubble wrap and the packaging and everything, that just feels like a whole expense of it in itself. It feels like you're not making hardly any profit with it, trying to like get this stuff to be able to ship it.
Yeah, eBay used to be a different thing, but it's funny. With the advent of eBay, people all became pawn shop owners in that a pawn shop used to be a place where somebody had either the institutional knowledge or resources to adequately appraise random items, right? And then when
Hmm.
eBay happened, all of a sudden everybody could accurately appraise random items. And so absolutely everybody on the planet now knows exactly what something should cost, and the race to the bottom of the pricing structure of all manner of things has caused it to be where by the time you put it in a box and get it in the mail, you're not making anything. You're just getting it out of your
Yeah,
house.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
I'm basically funding getting this out of my house.
yeah, and
with,
there
with
yeah, there's a part of you that could just either leave it cluttering up your place or throw it in the trash, which I don't know. Neither of those things feel great, do they? So I guess you end up giving it away for what feels like nothing. Of course, it's not nothing. You're going to have your $40 by the end, and that's not nothing. But there's also the idea of some of the stuff when you see things going for $2. It's like, is your time not worth anything, random eBay sailor?
yeah.
What were you going to say about? You had a comment about what I was talking about with the painting and that kind of experience of struggle.
Oh, I was gonna say sometimes you just want to have something. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but monotonous to paint, something to kind of turn your mind off for a while and just focus on getting it done, doing the brushwork and everything.
Yeah,
Sometimes you don't want to have to try to develop new artistic styles and experimentation with it all. Sometimes you just want to sit down and paint some just battle line guys.
look, man, sometimes you want to go for a run. Sometimes you just want to walk around the park.
Mm-hmm.
Close that bits box.
Closing it. Oh, boom.
Okay. I predict in the not far future that we will be able to place bets on 40K tournaments.
That's crazy.
Why is it crazy?
Because I can't conceptualize it. I can't conceptualize placing bets on this tabletop game.
Man, we can right now. We can right now place bets on video games. You can do that. You can even play daily fantasy on this nonsense where you pick your guys and your players and stuff and just blow money that way against everybody else. Like we're not talking about you bet $20 that you're going to beat somebody. That's not even what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get started on this. What brought us to this discussion is for our American listeners, and I imagine that I'll need to do a little bit of educating to the best that I can with my knowledge on these couple of news stories. But because I don't think that a lot of our tabletop gamers necessarily watch a ton of sports or keep up very closely with sports, I know you're not that much of a sports ball guy yourself. However, the FBI right now has been arresting people. Like, they arrested Hall of Fame NBA player and current NBA head coach Chauncey Billups in connection with ties to organized crime, rigged poker games, and manipulation of starting lineups and injury reports in NBA games. Why is this a thing that we care about? Well, it's because of the nature of the way that sports books are letting one bet. And the nature of that is that they'll let you bet on any damn thing that you can think of.
Yeah.
They don't care. You want to bet on the first shot going in or not? Sure. You want to bet that this guy is going to make more than 10 points? Sure. You want to bet that this guy is going to make less than 10 points. And that's where we get to our illegality, because typically they call these prop bets, and they're on weird stuff, right? They're not on the final score of the game. Those are just, money line bets or they're the result of the game bets that then the house sets odds on, and you put your money, and it either pays odds or it doesn't. But these prop bets go all over the place. So this is the sort of thing for the Super Bowl where you can bet on how long the national anthem is going to be. And they give you odds for over or under, a minute 50 seconds, however long that the house, that the DraftKings, that the FanDuel, that the whatever your sports book of choice chooses. We recently have got more arrests taking place in baseball. And this is on prop bets of starting pitchers. So what these guys are doing is they're putting like $20,000 on themselves to throw a ball on the first pitch of a game, and then they go out there and they throw the first ball in the dirt so that it's a ball, and then they're shocked when the sports books are like, hey, that seemed like a whole lot of money from somebody on a random Tuesday. And that's how these guys are getting caught. Now, all that is got nothing to do with what we're talking about, except that it highlights that what we have is an absolute saturation of gambling in entertainment. There are sports books that will let you bet on Dancing with the Stars. Or, the books, we call them, just bookies. You don't really call them bookies because that indicates a single person, but these are big organizations where the gambling is legalized. And so, I say, why couldn't you bet on a 40K tournament? You can bet on World Series of Poker results. So what's stopping you from, especially the Frontline Gaming, the ITC, those big tournaments? Why not?
That is very interesting in that how kind of invasive all this gambling has become into our everyday lives with all these little things. Like you said, Dancing with the Stars. That's just a TV show. Why are people even betting on it? But they are.
Well, because it's a
And
live.
yeah,
I guess it's a live broadcast, right? There's enough. There's enough result uncertainty to it. You see,
yeah.
for people to feel like they can confidently, and that this is another thing. And this is why I brought up the arrest being made, because the confidence that this stuff is not rigged is a huge part of this whole thing being able to function, because nobody
Hmm.
wants to bet if they think that they've already lost.
Yeah.
But we're getting to 40K, people, I promise. Again, this is a speculative discussion, and we kind of wanted to talk about gambling and what it's doing right now, because that invasiveness and pervasiveness that you're talking about is huge. And I want to talk about a little bit of why it is so huge. Here's why. It's not so huge because DraftKings, FanDuel, yada yada are all throwing money at the broadcast. It's not so huge because they're throwing money at podcasts. By the way, DraftKings, FanDuel, if you want to sponsor the first 40K, your first 40K podcast, let us know. This will be brought to you by DraftKings, like everything else that you listen to. The reason why they are able to do these things is because gambling is terribly habit forming. People like to do it. And
Hmm.
since we have in most states started to allow, first of all, we got daily fantasy gambling everywhere. But now most states have allowed some level of gambling on your phone on games with odds.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's the most insidious stuff right there.
Yes, because the way they get around this, well, sort of the way they've turned the heat up on the boiling frog is the daily fantasy is considered to be a game of skill, because you gotta follow this, that, and the other, and you gotta buy stock in these various players and yada yada yada, right? It's a kind of a game within a game.
Hmm.
Picking the games versus the spread is gambling on dice. That's all it is. However, so is the daily fantasy once you have your money on it. Like, the sort of skill involved in the spreadsheets that people are keeping is a little bit it's a little bit ancillary to the point, which the point is they're trying to make $40 off their five, right?
Hmm.
Now, why is this so attractive to nearly everybody? It's because if you are someone that does cocaine, you following me here, Austin?
Yeah.
If you're somebody that does cocaine and you're $500 in the hole to your cocaine man, the next hit of cocaine cannot fix that problem.
Nope.
If you are gambling on games all day and you are $500 down, the next bet might fix that problem.
It's that meme with the miner. With the pickaxe digging up the earth, and he's looking for the diamonds. The one miner's walking away because he was so close, but he didn't know it.
Yeah,
It's exactly that. Yeah, it's that meme.
Yeah. No, there's the thrill of the winning, there's the pain of the losing, and then there's the desperation that the next time I might win and it's going to make up for all that losing. And so that's how these gambling companies have amassed this amount of wealth, that they're able to fund podcasts, that they're able to have TV commercials continually during these sports games. It's how they're able to it's how they're able to sponsor all this stuff, because they are making jobs for people. Like, there's sports podcasts, many of them I listen to, that have nothing to do with gambling really, that are brought to you by DraftKings, FanDuel, Bet Saracen, Pin Gaming, etc., right? And that's good, because it's
I
good
guess.
that people are getting paid somehow. However,
Well,
the other side of it is that there are people losing their houses, on their
yeah,
phones, on their couch, doing this stuff. Now, all that's pretty gloom and doom. However, they're getting into everything. They've got all the sports people. If you watch sports, you know about this, and the only thing you're doing to not gamble is that you just don't like to gamble, right?
hmm,
Well, who are they missing? They've got some video game people now, right? So they've got
yeah,
your Dotas and your Counter Strikes and all, and your Valorant and all that. They've got those people. People are into that. They've got esports teams, and you can bet on those, Overwatch, etc. Those are things that you can get into. But they don't yet have miniature war gamers. And I don't see it being very long before they get us too. Couple of things. One, so a couple of things that appear to have it not going is that there's no quote unquote pro league of miniature wargaming, or 40K specifically, because let's be honest, we're a pretty niche thing. They're certainly never going to get involved immediately in the niche of the niche, right? Those video
hmm,
games I mentioned are giant. They're the
yeah.
biggest
They're the
things,
big
Yeah,
big players.
yeah, they're the big players. Well, 40K is the biggest player by far. It's not even close. Um, and so I don't I don't see it being long before they do this. And here's a couple of things. So sure, there's no proper pro league, but that's really got more to do with that these tournaments don't pay money, and so the 40K players don't make a living. They're not necessarily professional 40K players, right?
Yeah.
But the people that win these things are or place high are often known, and the
Hmm.
tournaments are very, very well organized. The ITC has got an they have a governing body. They're they're as much a proper league as nearly anything else.
Yeah.
And we already are seeing quite a bit of broadcasting of this. Now, you've got us some data on how big these tournaments have actually become, because I think that's a thing we need to touch for the people to show what we're looking at. Uh, it would not be you're betting A versus B. No, you could be picking whoever with whatever army you see. Uh,
Yeah. Because I've looked it up doing homework for this, and like Adepticon in 2025, there were 291 players taking part in a 4 round tournament for that, and that's already a sizable group there. But if you look at the Nova Open for 2025, you had 375 players doing 9 rounds.
now where
That's nine rounds to bet on potentially.
now where is Nova Open? Where does it take
Uh,
place?
let me check there real quick.
Because I think that's Las Vegas, isn't it?
Well, there's LVO is
Ah,
definitely Las Vegas.
okay. Did you get numbers on LVO by any chance?
Yes, that was my next one. LVO. Now you kind of spoiled it with the Las Vegas thing, but LVO had 1,052 players taking part in a 6 round tournament.
That's a lot of games going on, man. That's a lot
Yeah,
of games.
yeah,
That's a lot, and
ma-
that's just a
massive player count.
massive player count, and well organized, well regulated. You
Yeah,
know, Would there be issues? Sure, but the first thing that DraftKings, FanDuel, etc. would do is say, okay, we're gonna get our referees, and they're gonna, they would probably be the same guys that are already putting the thing on, and it'd be like, all right, you guys are gonna be the dudes. Don't mess up, or you could go to prison, right?
Yeah. Real quick,
Go ahead.
Nova Open was in Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had it mixed up. I forgot LVO had its Las Vegas in the name.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing about this is, okay, so we've got tournaments that are big enough to warrant a amount of games that the betting would make some sense, that the house could set some lines on. There will be names involved in that the inside folks would know, right? So you'd have favorites who wouldn't have such great odds. You'd have Jim Bob, whose odds would be, whose odds would pay astronomical, relatively speaking. And you've got a bunch of games. The other thing that we already see, a guy that I like a lot is Tactical Tortoise, and he does a ton of broadcasting of these games, and he's not the only one. You can watch so many of these major GT games, matches. And I don't see that decreasing. All it would take would be for DraftKings, FanDuel, etc. to say, we would like to tap into this market of all these nerds that don't watch football. We would like to see if they are interested in putting some of their money up because here's the thing. The gambling is kind of on the side. It's sort of, they've got to find something that you're interested in, and then there's the gambling, right? And they want everybody on the planet to, they want to be able to, if you're into watching tractors, they want to be able to find something that's got some tractors, so that some percentage of people that like to watch tractors will put some money up for their favorite tractor, right? It's kind of ridiculous. At some point in this, I meant to say it on the front end. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact your local gambling hotline. There, I think I might have. Maybe it's only if DraftKings ever gives us money, but I feel like I'm in some way obligated to do that. So there's that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put that in the description. It feels important.
Yeah.
But
I had a couple other statistics to talk about in a second once you finish your point.
Sure. So the idea would be that they want to get us nerds something that we care about, that we feel like we know something about, that we could put some money on, right? All they'd have to do is say, hey guys, we're DraftKings, we're coming in. We know these tournaments, they're hard to put on, they're hard to make money with, except we got $1 billion. Here's 50 G's. We're going to put this thing in a proper arena on the floor of a place. We'll have spectators. We'll have places to watch. We'll have a bunch of cameras, and that would be good, right?
I guess.
No, that would be awesome, because the tournaments would only get better. They would have more space. They would have more. Look, if you got DraftKings putting the money up, the terrain is sorted. Every table is going to be beautiful. It's all going to be exactly like it should be. You see?
When I say I guess, I'm thinking about the larger picture of this all. I'm not looking at, okay, yeah, we got more tables. It's kind of like, well, how does this extrapolate out?
Well, hold on, because I think let's touch on the more statistics that you have, and then I want to do a good thing, bad thing sort of thing to wrap us up here, okay? Because there would be a lot of good, and there would be some bad. However, I'm not sure the bad would actually affect the tournament participants at all. I think it would all be good for them. But anyway, what did you have for more stats?
So I was looking up how many members there are for FanDuel, or how many registered users there are. There's 12 million for FanDuel and 4.5 million monthly active users on there.
Yeah.
And then for DraftKings, there's 4.8 million active monthly users for DraftKings. That's a lot of people using these.
Oh yeah, no, I'm telling you, the gambling, the sports gambling is out of the bag and a little bit out of control, and that's bad societally, right? We don't actually want, especially with the way that young people talk about their finances and the economy. It seems crazy that we simultaneously have got the the potential for great profit right there on your phone on your couch if only you can figure out who's going to make more three-pointers today, right?
Hmm.
That's all a little bit bad and seedy. There's no doubt. But taking it back to 40K, let's go with what would be good about this. So right off the rip, we would very quickly get some good standardization of sort of an ITC pack of rules and calls that would work for a season, and that'd be nice. GW would still get out here and change the rules all the time. That's just I I don't think that the gambling I don't think the bookies would care so much about that. They'd be on top of it the day it happens, and they would just adjust the odds. Um, the big takeaway would be that the tournaments and that the eyeballs on 40K would shoot through the roof because there would be DraftKings sponsored streams of games, and they'd sort of pick the matches that they think are going to be close or that might be competitive toward the end, right? Because if there's
Hmm.
one thing that these uh, gambling houses are good at, it's figuring out what the lines are, figuring out who is actually a favorite, who's not. They would sort out a game like 40K in a matter of minutes. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then you'd have odds that make sense, and it'd be good. And of course, there'd be names who, you know, the lines would move, um, and you'd end up with like some celebrity. And then I could see
I,
them even making the broadcast and just the whole process of playing the game even more slick for like a viewership from a viewership standpoint because of the way that they have little prop bets and side action, right? So imagine um, you could take
so
a
literally betting on dice.
yeah, you could actually bet on dice. You could yeah, you could have a bet that says that's like at some point in this game somebody's going to roll 10 sixes in one go, right?
Yeah.
Which
Prop
would
bet. Does the hazardous roll fail?
yeah, yeah, you here's another one because of the pace of 40K, you could in real time bet on charges succeeding or not. And that sort of thing could pay you. Um, and this would get eyeballs. This would get people who are you would get people that are interested in 40K, watching 40K, which they're already doing. You'd get people with some money on the line, so they'd be caring about 40K even more than they already do. And then you'd get sickos. You'd get a non insignificant amount of sickos who just need action wherever they can get it, and the newer and weirder the better. But some of them are going to get into 40K too. So
I
all
can't
that,
imagine.
go ahead.
I can't imagine coming into this. You boot up the app. You're here to look for a game to bet on, like sports wise, and you see some kind of ad for some kind of new thing they're doing. New something called 40K Warhammer. What the heck is this? You click on it, and you're seeing these guys push around little toys on the table, and there's like on the sidelines, there's like massive bets going on. That'd
Yeah.
blow my mind.
Oh, it'd be, yeah, yeah.
I'd be like,
If you
what's going on?
to the uninitiated, you're like, what the heck is this? Because think about it, you'd see it on your phone, and it would just be a list of names and army names and odds,
Yeah.
right? That's all it'd be. So Adeptus Sororitas versus Gene Stealer Cult, and you know, the Adeptus Sororitas is paying plus 150 or something, right?
Hmm.
And the sickos are just like, yeah, I'll put 5 on it, right?
Hmm.
And then they go onto the YouTube and they go and find, oh shoot, there's my game, you know, game table 10, which again, guys, if you're listening to me and thinking this sounds ridiculous, you can bet on players in World Series of Poker playing poker. So it's like gambling once removed. They're in there gambling, and you're gambling on them gambling.
That's crazy.
We're already in crazy town. What I'm saying, I promise you, is not nuts. But think about it. Now we got all these eyeballs. Now the people that are involved in this gambling are gonna sort of, because it, one thing they would do is they'd work it into an elimination sort of tournament pretty quickly.
Hmm.
You would have one
Yeah.
of those, and you would have this whole ITC thing that we have. It would coalesce into like a final that then would be televised. You could see a final of a 40K match on ESPN3, for instance. Is 3 still in the league? It'd be on the
I,
Ocho once a year. I promise you that. You don't even know what I'm talking about.
I,
You,
I,
you
I don't know.
non-sports person.
I'm like, I know the ESPNs. Yeah, that line of channels.
But that's the good stuff. Now, what would be the bad stuff? The bad
Uh,
stuff would be,
crippling gambling addictions,
the bad stuff would be the stuff that comes with gambling. And
home foreclosures.
yeah, here's my thing about that. That ship has sailed. We're there. Like, I made the analogy about the cocaine because that's what the gambling is like in your pocket. It's pretty well all bad. It is societal societally erosive on the whole, I believe. Um, and that's all bad. But how could it be bad for 40K? Um, the way that I would see it being bad for 40K is it would it would cause the game to move to an even more sweaty, competitive type of meta.
Yeah.
But I think that ship has already sailed as well.
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking about with this is that the rules writing at Games Workshop would have to change, or something's got to give, because this gets back into kind of the insider stuff you're talking about, because it feels like Games Workshop has too many levers to pull in the addition rules and changes and stuff not to influence this. Be like, okay, well, we're going to release an FAQ to screw this guy over for his army, stuff like that. Tweak the rules a little bit. I feel like there's got to be like some kind of more baseline evening out of this, like you're talking about,
Well,
trying to
no,
smooth it out. Rules.
well, you would think so, but that's what the odds are for. So you got to remember that sports books are very sophisticated. Okay, when a good team plays a bad team, there you can make a money line bet just straight up who's going to win, and you can say, oh well, obviously University of Alabama is going to beat um, random tiny school, with no black players. Like everybody knows that. And so, if you put $100 on Alabama to beat up on Jim Bob and Joe, then someplace like DraftKings, FanDuel, etc., are like, okay, great. For your 100 that you bet, you make $5.
Mm.
So we give you your 100 back and $5. Well,
Oh yeah.
you can do that. The 40K would be the same in that the armies that are not any good, the detachments that are not any good, all that would have drastically different odds than what is the known powerful meta. Basically Admech, Drakari right now, those Aldari, those kind of things would probably have minus odds versus some other stuff, some of the bottom feeder armies. However, you can still bet on those bottom feeder armies because every now and then they're going to win their match, and then you get paid. You see,
Mm-hmm.
so again, I believe the sports books would solve something like 40K within minutes of rule changes and FAQs, and it would all be fine. I think that there would be cooperation between the 40K rules team and these organizations, basically these tournament organizers, so that it's like, hey, that FAQ needs to be out 2 weeks before the tournament, you know, and then the betting opens for the tournament. You see, because what you're not going to have is people locking stuff 6 months from now, and then it be totally different. That wouldn't fly. But that's not really something. Well, I mean, there are futures markets and things like that, but football's not changing, basketball's not changing in that amount of time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think all that they've got solved. So what else negative for 40K would happen?
I feel like it might harm the spirit of the game.
I agree with that. I think that it
Yeah.
would. I think it would definitely have people thinking that this is sweaty. I mean, it'd have people thinking it's Valorant or Overwatch, where it's just all we play is match play or whatever they call it in Overwatch. What's it called in all those FPS games? Ranked.
Yeah, ranked.
All we play is ranked, and we only run the current meta. But spoiler alert, that's all the 40K tournaments are anyway, and it's the direction that a lot of local gaming groups appear to be moving in anyway. But get in the comments and let us know, do you think gambling is going to get involved, dip a toe in 40K and its tournament scene? Because I don't see, man, look, 1,000-something people involved in the tournament. And let me tell you another thing. God forbid they decide to do cash prizes for these tournaments, because then it'll be Katie bar the door. We'll have 3,000 player tournaments. And why not? And why not? I don't. The gambling thing is not that genie is not going back in the bottle. The toothpaste has left the tube, right?
Yeah.
So I think that yeah, I guess that's ultimately my point is I just don't see why 40K would not be something that they would look at and want to get involved with. Vegas and sportsbooks love anything that happens in a big O conference room, like a pool tournament or a darts or a cards. I mean, we're shooting dice. Let us know what you think down in the comments. I hope that this kind of speculative conversation was interesting to you all. Maybe you learned something about sports gambling in the U.S. The Chauncey Billups thing is really interesting because of the mob connection. Didn't know that the 5 families were still in the league and operating strong, but they are. And until next time, don't forget to
stay fanatical.